We built a greenhouse. My husband got into beekeeping, and then I would say a lot of the Hokestead really took off. Led us to where we are today during the pandemic because we had a lot more time to put our energy into all of these fun little things we were doing on the side. And so it was a COVID passion project that just like emerged into something we never expected.
On today's episode of the Peddler Perspective, we welcome Kara Hoke. Kara and her husband Tyler started the Hokestead in 2022, a small side hustle selling heirloom plants and produce at the Monroe County Farmers Market. The Hokestead has quickly become a full-scale homestead business centered around sustainability, regenerative agricultural beekeeping, and all natural products. Welcome to the podcast, Kara.
Hi, thank you.
So basically, if you would, let's tell a little bit background, and like I say, from where you're at, where you came from, and how did we get to the homestead is what we're going to really focus on today. But where are you from, and how'd you get to Monroe County?
My husband and I are from Tuscola. It's a small town near Champaign, Illinois. So that part of the state is really known for agriculture and great black soil. But nobody in my family was engaged in agriculture, and I didn't do FFA in high school, like no agriculture background whatsoever. It just really wasn't, anything I was interested in at the time. I actually went to school to be an educator, and I've worked as a teacher and an administrator. I've done curriculum development. I've worked for a small village in the area doing administrative tasks. So that was kind of the direction I was heading. But when we bought our home in Hecker about 10 years ago, like as an adult, when you own a home, you're supposed to start a garden, right?
Very
Yeah. And, we did that when I was growing up too. So we put in a garden bed and just really enjoyed it and kept expanding it. We built a greenhouse. My husband got into beekeeping. And then I would say a lot of the Hokestead really took off. Led us to where we are today during the pandemic because we had a lot more time to put our energy into all of these fun little things we were doing on the side. And so it was a COVID passion project that just like emerged into something we never expected.
Exactly. So it's interesting how life takes us. I mean, it's one of those whenever you really look at it, is that people look at that the 3-year, 5-year, 10-year goals, which those are absolutely wonderful. But the thing is that whenever you really you may be setting out for one goal, and in the middle of it realize that something just popped up and now takes you down a path that you didn't even know you were going.
Yeah.
So that's one of those. Your husband's from up north there. What brought you to Hecker?
Well, my husband's job, he's had the same job now for, I don't know, like 13 or 14 years. And it brought him to St. Louis. He works out of St. Louis. So we lived in Missouri for a little bit, and then we moved to Monroe County when I started teaching in the area. He traveled a lot at the time, so it just made sense to live closer to my job. And then during the pandemic, he worked from home. I worked from home. So yeah, that's really what brought us to Monroe County, was just a job.
There you go. Well, like I say, Monroe County is one of those beautiful places. So that is one of those things. I didn't start in Monroe County, but I just started in St. Clair County, which is not very far off.
Yeah.
So as far as that goes, but Monroe County really does enjoy their agricultural. The fairs are a wonderful thing. The farmers market is one of those things that's really taken off quite a bit here for Monroe County. But I guess let's digress a little bit here. And how did you make the jump from having a full-time job to making this your full-time job?
So this is my full-time job now. It has been since 2023. And I think I had reached a point by then where I had several jobs and they all felt kind of full-time. And I was very overburdened and tired and felt like I couldn't give my attention to any of them the way I wanted to. I went with this because I knew that my experience and my background as an educator would always be there and I could return to that. But I don't know, I just felt like that this was something I wanted to see what could happen if I could actually dedicate full time to it. And I told myself, let's just do it for a year or two. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. It's no big deal. And it worked out.
It worked out. So still
Yeah.
growing. So that's one of those that the leap of faith and with a backup plan, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So not going into it blindly, but so it's definitely working out. And then what are some things that you've learned about as being a business owner? And let's go through so that we can educate some of the other people that are watching the podcast and saying, okay, some of these do's and don't kind of things. And but let's talk about some of the things that are the do's.
Um, I think just being authentic, like to who you are. If you're putting your effort into things with intention and with passion, it's going to show. And especially being a direct to consumer sort of small business operating predominantly out of a farmer's market, your customers are going to interact with you every week. So they have to see that you care, not just about what you're selling them, but about them. And so I think that that's been one of the biggest successes is I like to chat and I like getting to know people and I've built a lot of friendships out of people that started from, just being customers, people that I met at the farmers market. So I think as long as you're true to yourself, and just pay attention to your customers, they'll tell you what they want and, you can just keep building towards that.
So you've got to be doing more than just the farmers market. So, or at least in
Yes.
my mind, so basically, is that an online presence? Is that what's really the thing, or how do you build the business besides the? I mean, there's got to be more going on than that.
When I first started, I was much smaller, and my first year, I just did the farmers market. So, it was just every Saturday, 6 months out of the year. And then as it built, I started doing other events in the area. And I have a website now, so I ship and deliver locally.
I
Um,
didn't know that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So just my body care products. I don't not plants or produce or anything like that online. But yeah, so it's been those small steps in growth. Not trying to overwhelm yourself by doing everything at once because I don't think that that would have really been beneficial to me. Because I don't have a background in a lot of what I'm doing or even in business. So having to figure things out along the way and just taking those small steps.
Okay. What's a big mistake?
Um, well, I'm a people pleaser. I've always known this about me.
Oh,
And I can be a hustler, or I was when I was younger, especially about just diving into my work, and forgetting, everything else, like the life that you're supposed to have. And so I think that that was probably one of the mistakes I made in the beginning was not setting boundaries around my own time. And there was a point a couple years ago where I felt pretty burnt out and like, oh, I'm not enjoying this as much anymore. And I've found a much better, way to balance my own time and learn how to still be there for my customers and keep growing, but also making sure that I'm not working 24/7, not saying yes to everything when, I can't say yes to everything. So, yeah, it was definitely something I had to figure out for myself because that's just part of my personality.
okay. So that one's the big overview. Is there any? I'm curious. So someone with the products and the home care and those things, how do they get developed? I mean, is your husband your test model, or do you have other? I mean, who's your?
I try. Like, I keep trying to get him into face care. Some things stick, or, maybe for like a week and then he falls, off the bandwagon. I would say myself and my friends, definitely are like my test subjects. So we do test on humans.
That's okay. Yes,
Um,
no animals used. All natural, but no animals used.
yes,
That's it. So it's
yes,
so
yeah.
with the humans. I did. I'd say I saw was at your stand a couple weeks ago at the farmers market, and actually personally tried the beard balm myself while it was there.
Oh,
So,
great.
so that was kind of interesting that you do have the samples out there, so people can actually test or see what it is at the market itself. So,
Yeah.
and that was one of those things that even before you knew you were going to be on a podcast, that yes, you were friendly and come and greeted and tried to help us. And your husband did too, so I will give him a shout out. It was whenever you were talking to somebody else, he was there trying to make sure that things were pleasant. So that's so that I say so what you're saying is really happening out there, even when you're not around.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, Tyler's really great. I appreciate all the help he does. He keeps the bees too, and he loves having the fresh produce, and I'm very grateful for all of his support, without a doubt.
Exactly. Homesteading has become quite a trend. What are the realities people don't always see behind the scenes whenever we're talking about homesteading?
Yeah, I think homesteading has become a trend, and I think it's a very like internet sort of trend. I mean, I see all these cool things on Instagram, the people who have these picture perfect gardens, abundant harvests, and they can everything and make sourdough and keep chickens. And, those are the very like snapshot worthy sort of things. Um, I don't, I call us a homestead, but I feel like people who have land, like more land than us, are like, they're not a homestead. you know, we we live in town. We live in Hecker, and our whole plot is with our house is about a half an acre. So we're doing a lot on a little, but we can't do everything. So we don't have chickens. I feel like you're supposed to have chickens as a homesteader, but we don't have space for chickens. We keep our bees on other people's property. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is that to be self-sufficient, it's still possible, even if you have a small amount of space and even if you live in town, and you've just got to pick those things that work for you, for the space you have and the time you have. So it may not be those big things you see, like the cute chickens or goats or whatever, but starting your own compost pile or catching rainwater with rain barrels, even just a small garden bed, you can produce a lot. So it doesn't have to be something big and glamorous, but you can do it even if you've just got this small lot living in the middle of town.
I think it's awesome because when I first saw you, I was on Facebook. I was like, oh, cool, another homesteader to follow, and I got on there. And I had no idea that you were in town. So I'm like,
Yes.
cool,
Yeah.
And so I thought that was really neat. And to find out, I'm like, you do so much, talking to you in yoga class and different things. I'm like, oh, sounds like you are quite busy. And then I got to your stand and I'm like, all this natural stuff and so forth. So what made you kind of focus on the natural, the laundry detergents and stuff like that? What made you kind of go that route?
It's interesting because it wasn't part of my business plan at all when I first started. Um, when I first started at the farmers market, I didn't sell anything like that. I sold surplus plants and produce. And the farmers market was a lot smaller back then, maybe about like 10 vendors every week, and no music, no big events. And nobody at the time was selling all natural products. So, when we applied, we're like, we'll come when we have stuff, but it's not going to be, every week. And it was just so much fun being out there. So we hit that weird time at the end of May and in June where we're not selling plants anymore, but we don't have produce yet. And it's like, I've got nothing, but I want to be out
But
there.
I'll be there. There you go.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, what can I put on a table? And I had made all natural products before as presents. And so I'm like, okay, I'll just do this for a while, so I have something. Always thought it would be very secondary, like, when I have time or when I have nothing else to offer. And instead, it just kind of blossomed. And I think that's really what I'm known for now. And especially with having such a small amount of land to really grow the plants and the produce, it's what I can lean into and can do on a larger scale.
Can you run through some of the items that you have? You all? There's a lot. Is
Yeah.
that's what I got out of that response? Is
Yeah.
there's a lot, but we'll go through some of those. Okay.
Yeah. So when I first started that first year, it was lip balm, body balm, and salve. And lip balm is still very popular. This year I have probably close to 40 different products. So it expanded into like I have a whole face care line with toners and face moisturizers and face masks. I started deodorant last year, which has been really popular, and then also some of the like household products like laundry detergent and room sprays, bath products. So yeah, it's expanded. I have, if you come into my stand, it's organized into these little sections, body products, bath, hair, face care. I know I'm forgetting stuff, but yeah, there's a lot.
It wasn't put it on the spot, but it was one of those just so that we can showcase. I mean, some of those things that you actually that you're done and you've expanded into.
Yeah.
So that's one of those. So it's definitely a wide variety. A lot of that is the honey used in much of that, or the moisturizers, or any of that kind of stuff. And I'm not a big facial person, but what's some of the natural things that you put into these?
So we use our beeswax from our hives, and then I infuse the oils in my products with homegrown herbs and flowers. So different herbs and flowers carry different properties. You know, a lot of my customers like rose because rose has fatty acids that are good for aging. So it's in a lot of my face care products. And so anytime you see on the label, it says, you know, such and such infused oil, that is most likely something that I grew.
All right, you're going to have to educate me. How do you get the oil out of a rose petal? Or what? Yeah. Well, how do we get oil out of out of a rose?
Okay. So when you harvest your roses, you have to dry them first. So that way, when you introduce them to the oil, it doesn't mold. So that's a process of, it really depends on the plant material and the time of year and the humidity, but it can take several weeks for your plant material to fully dry. And then once it's fully dry, you kind of grind it up a little bit to help release all of the compounds in the plant. Put it in oil, leave it in a cold, dark place for about 8 weeks, and then it's ready to use. So, you know, something like oil or yeah, rose infused in oil could take up to, you know, 10 to 12 weeks after you harvested it to actually be able to use it in a product.
I was going
No.
to say that I say I knew there had to be something because it doesn't happen very often that people do this. So there's got to be more complications to it. So it's one of those things. So that's I would have never dreamed it might take 10 to 12 weeks to be able to get a base material that you're starting with or you're infusing with. So that is
So
very interesting. Is that one of the longest processes in this, or is there anything longer, or kind of so? What you're telling me is that you're not just making a product. You're now having to plan, coordinate, start, and to have this ready to go when it's time to sell.
Yeah.
So there's a lot
I
more
mean,
thought process than going out and picking a piece of produce and selling it at the farmer's market.
yeah. Yeah. Well, and, you know, a lot of those I start from seed, things like chamomile or calendula. So, you know, starting my seeds in February, they're planted in the ground now, but they're not flowering yet. So I'll get the flowers here in maybe like a month or two, harvest, dry, infuse. And so, you know, it's also making sure that you're growing enough so you can have that supply available to you year round. So, you know, like right now, if I'm infusing chamomile in oil, it's chamomile that I grew last summer.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a long process.
so
Yeah.
um, what surprised you as far as your popular, like what's come back as popular items or so forth, their demand? What do you have the most demand for, I guess, and what's surprising?
I think in general, I was really surprised by the popularity of my all natural products, just, you know, all of them.
Yeah.
And I think it's because it wasn't part of my plan to begin with. Um, the face products in particular, but again, it's not surprising because people who go to a farmer's market to buy clean produce, you know, what they're putting into their bodies, it makes sense that they also want clean products that are being absorbed by their skin. But yeah, I think it surprised me because it was never part of the plan. And then switching gears to produce, garlic is the surprising one because I also did not grow that when I first started this. and then decided, oh, let's just throw some cloves in the ground and see how this works, and had a good first harvest and sold. And now that's kind of a focus we're going in for produce is garlic. So yeah, it's always those things that weren't part of the original plan. And then it's like, oh, we've got something here.
There you go. It's
Yeah.
kind of neat that you're trying different things and shifting, you know. That is really neat as far as that goes. I should have picked up the laundry detergent last time, so I'll probably be back by for some of that real soon.
Yeah.
And,
It's always there.
so I mean, so the farmers market, I mean, how do you think that that's important to the local community? What do you think as far as that? I heard you say you craved it. You craved being there when you didn't have something. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I think that that's kind of a vibe more than one person has as far as that goes. It is a community effect. What do you feel? I mean, how do you feel about it?
You know, I wouldn't have been able to do this if it wasn't for the farmers market. You know, not being from here, I didn't know a lot of people when I first started. So there's a lot of investment in a brick and mortar. And especially when you don't have a lot of connections, you're not even sure what direction you're going in. It's not feasible in the beginning. And so the farmers market really provides a space for a lot of small businesses to still thrive in the community. Um, and I also think it's just a really cool gathering place, the way it's grown, and seeing how many people, especially families, can enjoy it on a Saturday morning, the live music and the events, and just getting to meet new people and learn and have this fun experience. But yeah, for me in general, like the Hokestead would not be here if it wasn't for the farmers market.
That is a great point that a lot of small businesses can come out and try their hand at business. And it does provide a very cool vibe to be at on Saturday morning. People can browse and shop. I love the fact that the music has been added. I think that gives it a very neat idea. Whoever thought of that. That's awesome.
So, and what's your role at the farmers market? Because like say, I hear you're more than just a vendor now.
Yeah, so we have a 10-person board, and we're elected each fall. And then there's also different roles that as a board member you can run for. So this season is my fourth season as the marketing director. I run the social media, and I have some people that definitely help that are much better at things like graphic design, like designing our banners and such. But still kind of just overseeing advertisements that we run, different ways that we're promoting the market. And then I'm also the assistant market manager. So our primary market manager is Betsy Jones, and then I assist her. And a lot of that work is just putting that market together each week, figuring out who's coming, where they're going to go, fitting in the musicians and the activities, and being there to assist people at the market if they need help while we're also running our stand.
Yeah.
What advice would you give someone wanting to start a homestead or market garden business? What would you give them?
Start. Yeah.
Start.
You know, if you go to a farmer's market and you see a stand and it's big and it's stuffed full, you know, just know that's probably not their first year, that everybody started small somewhere. And so you're going to have to do that too. Pick the things that you're passionate about, that you would enjoy doing for years to come, and stick with it. You know, I think another big thing to remember is trying to find a market or an event or something that is a good fit for you. There's plenty in the area, little events in the wintertime, little markets all around the area. So just find that one that works for you and keep growing your own customer base, because getting into a farmer's market does obviously, it brings customers to you. You know, there's already people who go to the farmer's market. So you set up and it's, you know, kind of easy to say, oh, you know, all these people will just shop from me. But it is really important that you also connect with the community and promote yourself so you can find your customer base and bring them to the market and keep those return customers.
So what do you do outside of the farmer's market to do that? I mean, to keep people coming and know about what you got going. I mean, what are some key things?
So thankfully, in a previous job, when I was an administrator at a school, I fell into the director of enrollment and marketing, and we had a marketing company. So I was more like the contact between the school and the marketing company, but I
Mm-hmm.
was able to learn a lot, which was really nice. I think that's why then it was just kind of a natural progression to be the marketing director of the farmers market.
Yeah.
But just a lot of that knowledge I gained on how to use social media has been instrumental to growing my own business, figuring out, I'm not always the best, but just figuring out how to design little graphics for yourself, um, trying to make connections, meeting people, being friendly, making new friends, or finding, a networking group, and just not being scared to talk about yourself, like doing something like this and talking about your business, because you think that your name might be plastered everywhere, but it's not. People are still always going to discover you. Even if you're at a market every weekend, there's still always new people coming, and you got to make that first impression, or figure out ways to get yourself out there online.
So, are there other events that you look forward to doing every year that you see the same people and kind of look forward, or is the farmers market for you the main one?
It is the main. I
Mm-hmm.
really enjoy Maystown. I do the Spring Fest. It was just a couple weekends ago, and Oktoberfest, and I've done Tag there. So I love a good Maystown event. They're always so chill, and it's just such a cool place. So I do that, and it's really neat because there are people outside of the county, especially who come to Spring Fest. I have a lot of customers in St. Louis. They're like, "Oh, I remember you from last year," and it's like, "I haven't seen you for a year, and you remembered me. That's really cool." And I've done some other markets in the area. I do other events at, especially around Christmas time. I've even tried to create my own events, like last December, renting out a space, the old Rooted Flower Bar, and getting a few other local vendors, and we set up a little pop-up holiday market. So, and then my online store has been really successful as well, especially to carry me through the winter when there's just not a regular farmer's market.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
The Hokestead right now, it's one of those, we look at this, and so we've got the farmers, the products that you make, the produce that you sell. I say, I know you do other things in life also, but while we have you here and then and we have an audience, what's some of the other stuff that you can actually help people with?
Well, as you both know, because
Mhm.
Brad, you've been to a class too. I teach
Literally.
yoga now. It's something I just started. I finished my certification early this year and started teaching classes at Kodiak Hollow. It wasn't something I had planned to teach. I just wanted to learn for myself, and opportunity struck, and I took it and love it. So that's something I do in my spare time that I'm trying to take slowly, because it's easy for me to just dive headfirst into something. But for now, I love teaching a few classes a week at Kodiak Hollow. But I would love to figure out how to bring that into my business plan a little bit more. But again, being patient, being slow with it.
Mhm.
So that's probably one of the other big things that's now taking up my time.
And that's one of those. So, and I will attest. I mean, like I say, I enjoyed the class, and
Thank you.
I would recommend, and I will be back.
Oh, that's great.
So I can tell you that as far as where that goes. I personally believe is that so people that do yoga actually have a longer life. So that is one of those things from what I've really seen and throughout my life is that those that actually do it and take it seriously have an actual better, longer life as far as where that goes. So that's just my personal experience. Anything else that you're involved in, or is that really kind of the homestead and now the yoga venture?
Yeah, I would say that's about it. I'm not the most exciting person, if I'm being honest. I mean, I'm in bed by like 8:30 or 9 every night and up early, and yeah, I wish I had an exciting life outside of my jobs, but that's about it. Spending time with my husband and our sweet dogs, and yeah, I just always am finding something to do to kind of putter around, try a new vegetable to plant and see how that goes. So, yeah, spending time with friends. That's about it.
Okay. Well, and like I say, and that's one of those things that, like I say, so in closing, I mean, looking at this, and like I say, it's very it's enlightening whenever we have new entrepreneurs that come on to be able to help share their knowledge of what's going on, and it's always appreciative of people sharing what they've been through and how they've done it. So that's one of those things on the Peddler Perspective, is that we appreciate your time and we appreciate you being a guest, and we look forward to seeing you in the farmers market here in the next few weeks. I know that this is the holiday weekend, so I don't even know if there is a farmers market this weekend, but
There is.
there
There's,
is. So
oh yeah,
this weekend is a big.
it's a big one. Yeah, there's music. Fredbird is visiting from 9:30 to 10:30. Some events at the welcome table, some games and stuff. So, oh yeah, this is a good weekend to come for sure.
Okay, well, we'll be out of town, but we'll look forward to seeing you the following weekend. So,
All right, that sounds
right.
great. Thank you.
Thanks for having you on.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on the Peddler Perspective. If today's episode sparked a thought, a smile, or new idea, share it with someone who'd enjoy the ride. Until next time, we'll be here working the land, serving our clients, and bringing you more stories worth hearing.